Both NoBull and Reebok handed out a huge amount of money at the CrossFit Games. But for Reebok, was this just a marketing gimmick, or could it have been a financial lifeline to some of the athletes? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk about the prize money that was handed out at the CrossFit Games, both NoBull's prize purse as well as the bonus program that was put in place by Reebok. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for visiting. Please subscribe if you like what I'm doing. If you're not here for the first time, then you probably noticed already it's not how I usually sound or look or act. I'm still not feeling 100%, but I'm trying my best to put out a video anyway, so please bear with me if it's not perfect. But I wanted to focus in on the prize money being given away. We cannot deny that NoBull put up an incredibly impressive prize purse, $2.8 million when you look at the money given out across the different divisions. So with that in mind, why should we care about Reebok's bonus program? Isn't that just a gimmick to get more athletes at the games wearing their shoes? Or could it be that for some athletes, they view that as a vital financial lifeline for them at the games? So why don't we start by taking a quick look at the payouts that NoBull would be giving different athletes in different divisions. So I have it up here on the screen so you can follow along, but we see that the biggest prize, of course, goes to the elite male and elite female winners. They would get $310,000, and then it drops as you go down rank, obviously, but this year going all the way to 40th place, meaning that everyone that participated in the elite individual division would receive some prize money. Now, interesting to note that the 10th place finisher would receive $25,000. It's an interesting number because when you look at the finishes for team athletes, the top team would receive $100,000. Now, obviously, you've got 4 people in a team, so if they decide to split that equally between them, it means each person is taking home $25,000. That is also the same amount that you would get if you won the Masters 35 to 40 category. But it's interesting to note within the Masters that it is only the 35 to 40 that receives such a large payout. But as soon as we go up an age category, we see that it then drops to $10,000 for that first place finish. And it continues like that all the way up to the 65 plus when it drops again to $5,000. $5,000 is also the amount you could expect to get if you won one of the adaptive divisions. So we can see that there's quite a drop off from winning as an elite individual compared to winning as a masters or adaptive athlete. And did you notice that there's one group we haven't mentioned? And that is the teens. There is no prize money for teen athletes. So if you ever wonder why some of these teens seem to jump across into the elite individuals when we thought maybe a year or two more in the teen division would benefit them and they would get a higher finish at the games having a few more years of experience and training, well, could it be that a 40th place finish at the games as an elite individual being more financially beneficial for them than finishing first as a teen? Well, that could be a motivating factor to make them make that jump across, even sometimes prematurely. And this is where we now start to look at Reebok, because while it's great what NoBull are doing here with these prizes, when we think about the cost for the athletes to make it to the games, particularly those that are traveling from abroad, some of the payouts for the adaptive division, the masters division, mean you really need to win, and even then, a win might not cover the costs of you actually getting to the games. But with Reebok's bonus program, all an athlete needed to do was register, wear the correct Reebok shoes, and if they won an event, then they were entitled to some prize money. $12,000 for the elite individuals and teams, and $1,200 for the adaptive masters and teens. Now again, yes, the elite individuals and the elite teams are making a lot more money here than the adaptive or the age groups. But when you think about trying to win an event when you're one of 40 compared to being one of 5, it's understandable that the reward would be higher. And that's probably why we would see such a high number of adaptive athletes enrolled in this program. In fact, about 75% of them took advantage of Reebok's bonus program. So Reebok gave out around $250,000. So of course, on the surface, just comparing that to what NoBull gave out, well, there is no comparison. NoBull obviously did a lot more. But when we look at who received a share of that money, well, then we can start to see what Reebok is doing for the CrossFit Games and the community in general. Because when we hear about companies doing things to help the community and the athletes, who are they talking about? We saw with printing the jerseys that it tended to be just the top athletes that were getting that, so the support was given to those that maybe already had quite a degree of support in the first place. And when we think to the elite individual side and their shoes, we know that many had deals in place before the game started that were going to be a source of income with regards to what shoes they were wearing, that was going to be guaranteed compared to a hypothetical amount of money they could receive if they happened to win an event, which we know is a lot more difficult in the elite individual field. So it shouldn't be a surprise then that 91% of the money handed out by Reebok went to teams, teens, masters, and adaptive athletes. We can thank Morning Chalk Up for that nice little graphic there. So of course, Rich Froning is a Reebok athlete, so it was a given that the teams would take a massive chunk of that prize money. But when we look at that $18,000 that was rewarded to teen athletes, well, we want to keep in mind that that's the only prize money they will have received. And this is something in people's minds when they're registering for the games. I spoke to one adaptive athlete. I asked them whether or not they were going to take part in the Reebok bonus program, and they told me that they had done the previous year, and actually that program had paid for their trip to the games last year. So while it might not be as much money as NoBull is giving out, the access to it that teens and adaptive and masters are getting means that for them this is a real vital pool of money that can help offset the financial costs of them getting to the games. And speaking of the adaptive athletes and helping the community, on top of this bonus program, Reebok also donated $50,000 to the ATA, the Adaptive Training Academy, which is a non-profit providing education and guidance on how to access fitness training for all abilities. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why NoBull is giving the majority of the money to the elite individuals. It makes absolute sense from a business standpoint. But it also seems that programs like Reebok are putting in place are really vital if we want to continue to see growth within the teens, adaptive, and masters categories. Knowing that there can be this additional source of income can alleviate some of the fear of the financial burden that is placed upon the athletes for covering the costs of registration, accommodation, travel, everything it takes for them just to get to the games, especially if they're competing for a very small prize purse. So what do you think? Is this just a clever marketing gimmick on the part of Reebok? Or is this something vital to keep these categories alive and competing at the CrossFit Games? I'd love to hear your opinions. Thank you for bearing with me and watching the video, and I hope to see you in a future video.